Hi Knights community, my name is Ms. Knigge, and for you today I have a slideshow about grit. Grit is a word that we say a lot on campus. Coaches use it, classroom teachers use it, and I am sure that it is a concept you mention in your homes. We wanted to talk about it as we end the semester, get ready for January, because we want to have this mindset that January is fresh. January gives us new opportunities for second semester, and also that we might need to draw upon our grit to be successful in our school year and be successful in our goals. So the definition of grit is that it is a personality trait, meaning that not all people naturally have it. It has to be developed. And this personality trait is possessed by individuals who demonstrate passion and perseverance towards a goal, despite being confronted by significant obstacles and distractions. People who possess grit are able to self-regulate. So self-regulate means that you can find an even keel in your emotional state, that you can handle both the good and the bad, the extremes of emotions, and then be able to find that happy medium so that way you do not go too far off of your chosen path. People who possess grit are also able to postpone their need for positive reinforcement while working diligently on a task. Many of us have incidences where, we're doing something like cleaning the house, or we are reorganizing a closet, or we're asking to do some kind of physical task that causes us to create a mess before we can go ahead and finish it. And there are those of us who get lost in that task because we get distracted by something great, an invitation, a request, a game, an experience, and we do not finish the task we are working on. Grit is the ability to know that there's a greater goal at the end of that task and be able to be dedicated finishing. There's probably more incidences in your home that you're familiar with when it comes to practicing grit, but we wanted to talk about when a person might practice grit or display their grit, as it were, on campus. So going down our bullet points, we want to remind students and their families, of course, that we need to practice grit when we faced disappointment. Not getting that spot on a varsity team, not passing a test, getting a lab partner, or reading that we don't enjoy. These are things that cause disappointment. A person who has been coached in grit, taught in grit, has had grit modeled at home will be able to persevere. And then, of course, we have, as is very common right now, practicing grit when we are tired, when we are overwhelmed, and when we are distracted. There are some days where it is very obvious and very understandable that distractions are important and need to be attended to. However, oftentimes we get in the habit and the pattern of giving into those distractions. So practicing grit would allow us to keep our goals in mind and not get distracted. And then this last one is actually really common on high school in particular. We want to practice grit when we feel like we've tried everything we can do and we're still not getting the result we want. So in some instances, we have done the homework, we've watched the YouTube video, we've asked the questions, and we're still not passing that math or that science test. Or we've looked up the vocabulary words, we've reread the passage several times, we've asked our neighbor, and we still don't understand what the chapter is about. Those would be instances of trying to practice grit, not allowing ourselves to be overwhelmed at that frustration, but rather to understand its significance, be kind to ourselves, and be able to push forward to a larger goal. So Mrs. Jones and I tried to brainstorm how a student could show grit academically, so that way you can maybe use this in your homes to guide them when they are feeling tired or when they're feeling lost. So we should show grit in the following ways. Let's set goals for each class, each quarter. Sometimes it's a nice and easy and hopeful thing to say straight A's. I'm going to use myself as an example. Math was always my weakness, so it was straight A's, and in math, a C or higher, because I struggled legitimately there and I needed to push myself, but it was kind and also realistic to give myself a separate goal for that class. Also, in instances of completing our work, there are times on campus when the work does not seem entertaining. There's times when there's a sub in the classroom. Having grit will allow us to complete our work when we are maybe not motivated to do so. Showing grit academically, whether it's in the classroom or outside the classroom, is also having the space to do your work without distractions. And right now, the number one distraction is the phone. Even though a very well-intentioned student will say, I just need to check this text, there's often so many notifications coming in that one moment of checking that text distracts them from their larger purpose. So creating that strength of habit via grit will allow them to be productive. Having grit, being an active participant in class, speaking to your elbow partner, answering questions when the teacher asks them, volunteering for an activity. These are things that allow us to show grit in a classroom. We're pushing forward because we desire to have a particular goal. This one I particularly experience in my classes here on Shadows campus, but it is showing grit when you're asking for help and asking for clarification. It's a sign to the teacher that you are pushing yourself through an obstacle, and that's my also flare up in the night sky that I need to go and assist. So that's a great thing to do both for yourself and your academic goals, and also for communication with your teacher. And then the last thing is just really being on time. We have shown in the last couple of months that across the campus and across all grade levels, we're having some problems getting to class on time. There's a variety of reasons why that may be true. However, when we're not showing up to class on time, we're not learning what occurs in those first moments of class, which means that now we're behind in that class period, which means that we're maybe not going to earn the goal that we had set out for ourselves in that class period. And that's the end of our grit slideshow for semester 2 for January, for the new year, for 2023.